Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Pop Anime Comics here from PopAnimeComics.com and the Pop Anime Comics Lounge podcast, where I interview comic writers, artists, voice actors, professional wrestlers, and cosplayers. All that will be in the description down below. Links, everything. Check it out. You will not be disappointed. So I'm about to get a bit controversial. So saw a bunch of videos on YouTube. Just did a comic book investing panel, and I figured I would tackle a question that is part of a sub question. So the larger question that this kind of stems out of is, are CGC books worth it? And the sub question, which is what I want to tackle and where we're going to get a bit controversial, is Stan Lee's signature worth it? So there's two types of Stan Lee signatures. So I'm just going to outline this. So the first is Stan Lee signs just a raw book and you have it. And we're going to talk about that. So that's part one here. And then part two is Stan Lee and CGC, and is that worth it? And so those are the two things I'm going to tackle. These are my opinions. But I'm going to drop some numbers down there, and I'll let you decide which way you want to go. And this is the numbers that I know as of the last time I got stuff signed by Stan Lee, and just simple mathematics and things along those lines of my experience and what things are worth. So the first part is that there's no doubt about it that Stan Lee is the guy who created a bunch of Marvel characters. Is he, the greatest comic creator, writer? Maybe, maybe not. That's up for debate. Is he one of the top 10? Absolutely. But you can't say he created these characters, but he definitely created them, but he didn't evolve them, for lack of a better word, and that's just the reality. That doesn't mean he's not important, so we're getting that out of the way. So the first part of this is this. So is a Stan Lee book signed that is not graded worth it? So just to give you some numbers, and this same numbers apply for CGC, Stan Lee will sign anything you give him. Legitimately, anything you give him, Marvel, not Marvel, something else, he'll sign it. So the way it works is that the question, and the first part of the question is, you're not getting it graded. Is it worth it? So Stan Lee charges $120 the last time I checked, possibly more, for a book being signed. So we're going to leave it at $120. So if you're just getting a book signed and the book costs you $10, that's a $130 investment. And if you just want it for your personal collection or you want the experience, that's completely fine, but that's not an investment by any means. So now you come somebody across like me who buys and sells comics and is always looking for the next big thing, and you have a Stan Lee without a COA or with the COA. I don't really care. COAs can be faked. I can go on my computer and print out a COA that looks somewhat similar and possibly believable, and I can get a sticker and I can fake the entire thing. So for a real collector, having a Stan Lee ungraded is not all that desirable. It's really not a marketable item because there's no way to authenticate it. And you're going to say, because I know somebody here is going to say it, and if they're not going to say it, I'm going to explain. There's a company called CBCS, and they could authenticate signatures, and about 20 to 25% of their Stan Lees come back as not being verified. And even though they can authenticate, sometimes just depending on how he signed, it just doesn't register and they won't verify it. So that's something that makes it very undesirable for that particular position, and you're putting 120 plus in to that entire book. So that's the first part. So under those pretenses, technically the book should be worth about $130 or more, technically, but you're probably not going to get it. It's going to be a hard sell, and if I'm buying it, I'm going to beat you up on price automatically from just the buying point, because I'm taking a risk that it can't be verified. And even if I saw it being signed, I would still have to beat you up on price, because there's no way that it's 100% guaranteed and verified and it hits the home run. So that is what I'm basically saying about ungraded stuff. So now the graded side. So still it's 120. So both are 120. Anything you give the guys $120. per signature. So now graded, what they typically do is that grading is usually about $40 to $70 with shipping. Sometimes Stanley Incorporated, which is ridiculous, and this should be a crime. They charge you like an extra 3% credit card fee, which CGC does not do, from my understanding, and that is a ludicrous position. That's called, robbery. By definition, that is called theft. In which that when one group does it and one group doesn't, there you go. So that's something to keep in mind. So that's what happens with Stanley stuff and all that fun stuff is that. So now you get it graded. So it's going to be $120 plus it's going to be anywhere from $40 automatically, and then they're going to charge like $30 shipping. So that's what happened with me. Might vary slightly, but you could at least assume you're going to pay about $60. So you're putting anywhere from about $170 to $190 into the book when it gets graded, plus whatever you spend for the comic book. Then what winds up happening, and this also applies for not graded comics, is that then you got to wait a few months. They usually take about 5-6 months. Sometimes they'll charge you an extra $10 to put Stanley's top thing on the label. It's nice, not nice. Doesn't really add much value to the book. Doesn't change really the desirability. It looks aesthetically. It could be the difference maker between somebody choosing your book and somebody else's book. But that's neither here nor there. Then, so now you're going to have over $200 into that book. And typically what winds up happening on eBay is that whatever you pay, eBay charges you about a 10% fee, and PayPal charges you a 3% fee of withdrawing your money, so you're paying 13%. So, and typically Stan Lee books go for about $300 on average on eBay. Just Stan Lee signing it and possibly with somebody else signing it. Sometimes $300, sometimes it's $250. There was just a few books that went for $250. There was about, I think, 30 books in the last week that went for about $250 per book of Stan Lee. And so you're paying on a $200 book that you're selling, you're paying $26 on it. If you sell it, most of them go for $300. You're paying $39 on that off the top. So if you add $200 into the book and then you have $39 of fees, I mean, you're making $71 in profit. And while you're recouping all the money you invested, you're not making a lot of money off the book. I mean, to make $71 after standing in line, laying out about $200 on top of other opportunity costs, waiting, taking the risk that it could come. And this is assuming it's a 9.8, by the way. And this is assuming that comes back as a 9.8 to only make $71. I mean, that's not a lot of money to be made. And so that's something to keep in mind. Is it worth the investment? And that's what the market is right now, and that's what the market's going to stay like for a few months and possibly a few years, especially because he right now is not a finite number. And I don't mean to speak ill, but this is just supply and demand. The more Stan Lee books there are out there, the cheaper it is because it's not a commodity. It's actually probably a lot harder to get a Robert Kirkman signed Walking Dead 100 than it is to get anything signed by Stan Lee. And so it raises the question, is it worth it as an investment? I mean, right off the bat, the easiest sale point is going to be a graded book. You have to lay out minimally $200 for it. And then if you sell for $300, you're paying $39 premium on your end. And so that's something to keep in mind. And so this is just basic math. You can fact check me. I mean, this is outlined on eBay. This is CGC's prices. This is Stan Lee's prices. And this is what you call cost analysis. And you're basically taking the concept of what do you have to put into the book and what are you selling for it, what are your fees, and what are you left with. And all those risks to make $71, I mean, if you have a decent job in about 3 hours, you can make $75 or $71. So that's my point, is it worth it because of all the effort, including listing it, shipping it out, spending time in the post office, and having your exit. Is it worth it? And my opinion is that it's a cool book to have, and maybe if you're longing it for 10, 15 years, might be worth $600, and you put in 200, that's worth it because you're getting you're getting 3 times your money. You're multiplying your money by 3 times, but that's called longing it. And unless you're longing it, and if you're looking to pick up Stan Lee books and then hold on to them for like 2 years, I don't think you're going to make much more money than $71. So I would say it's not worth it. And I get my statement is controversial, but from an economic standpoint, and not to take anything away from the guy, and I know I'm going to get flack because that's not what this is about. This has nothing to do with him as a good person, a bad person, a creator, a writer. The question is it worth it? And the answer is, if you want to make $71, and $71 after more or less about 5 hours worth of work, which if you divide 70 by 5, you're making less than 15. You're making a lot less than 15. You're making maybe $13. Give or take, or maybe you're making 14. You're not making a lot of money per hour that you have to put in, which is probably about a 6-hour endeavor. So divide 70 by 6, and that's what you're making in profit on this. So that's my take. That's just mathematics. That's basic break-even cost analysis, and I hope this helps you. If you want a Stan Lee and you want to hold on to it for 10 years, you will most certainly make money. I'm positive that you will make money in 10 years, and you will make a lot more money. I have Stan Lee books. I'm buying more Stan Lee books. There's no question about that, but my plan is to long it. And what I mean by that is I'm holding on to it for 10, 15 years, and then I might sell the entire bundle as a whole in 2030. Because I think at that point, it's going to be worth a lot more. But if you're looking to make some money quick with Stan Lee, you're not going to make much. You're just not. And so that's my opinion. I really hope this helps. I know I'm going to get flack for it, and every time I get flack for it, I'm going to point you to this point, which is about the end of 12 minutes, approaching 13. Saying we're not talking about him as a person. We're only talking about you as the consumer and what you make out of this investment. Because that's the only thing that this video is dealing with, and I'm outlining it point blank right here so that when I get attacked by people, because it's going to come, and I know it's going to come, and I'm just preventing this because from 12:40 to about 14-minute mark, that minute and 20 seconds is my defense, which is going on right now, that this is about you as the buyer having your exit and selling the book and how much profit you're going to make it. Is it worth the investment, or are there other creators that charge less and have a bigger payout? And the answer to that question is, in my opinion, Stan Lee does not produce the best payout right now, as of 2018, April 18th. So that's my complete opinion on this matter. I get it. It's controversial. If you would like to have a discussion, I'm more than willing to talk about it because that's what I'm here for. I love talking about comic books. I run a comic book investing panel. I'm working on a comic book investing newsletter. And I have several other projects possibly in the works. And I live and breathe procurement of comic books and buying and selling them. So definitely would love to hear your thoughts. Happy to answer any questions. And if you have no questions and you're bored, you can definitely check out my website, popanimecomics.com, for articles relating to anime, comics, and pop culture. Also, you can check out my podcast. It's the Pop Anime Comics Lounge, where I interview voice actors, comic writers, artists, professional wrestlers, and cosplayers, and the occasional author. I'm going to be a guest on several podcasts talking about my journey and lots of other stuff coming up, so definitely check that out and be on the lookout for that. I'll be sharing that. I have a Facebook page. It's Pop Anime Comics. You should go like it. I'm really not on Facebook, but I do tweet a lot. And I recommend you check me out on Twitter because I'm fun on Twitter. Big wrestling fan, tweet a lot, so definitely check that out. And that's at Pop Anime Comics. And typically anything with Pop Anime Comics Lounge, unless I owe you money, is mine. And if it does really well, it's also mine. Even though if I don't own it, it's still mine. And if it's horrible, I will disassociate with it completely, and I don't know them. So on that note, I'll let everybody enjoy this video. Feel free to comment, subscribe, and if you like me talking about stuff like this and just being brutally honest about my opinion on comic book stuff, let me know. Just say, yeah, man, that was good, or what do you think about this? Because if you guys engage with me, and what I mean by you guys is I mean everybody on YouTube, I'll just make a lot more content about this stuff, and just to talk about it, and just to do it as a public service to everybody in the community and have a good time with it. So let me know what you think, and if you like what I say and you agree with me and you appreciate it, and it gives you some insight, just let me know, because that makes me feel good. And everybody who comments, I will comment back, and we will have a conversation. So keep that in mind, and I look forward to hearing back from everybody, and especially because this is controversial, and I love it. And welcome, because this is how this is going from here on out. So it should be a good one. Till next time, everybody, have a good one.